be a recording linked into this on the Google Calendar. Second thing that I want to mention is that this is a repeat session of the one we did before. However, I did recognize that quite a few names registered again. And so I wanted to be respectful of that. And so I've done some research and done some learning, and I'm going to spend about the first 15 to 20 minutes talking about some things that I did not talk about in the last session. And I'm going to do that first. That way, if you want to get some new things and then dip out, I totally understand that. If you want to get some new stuff and then hang around and see the other stuff again, awesome. And we'll certainly let you hang out, and you could help us in the chat if questions come up, if you're a returning veteran of the awesome PowerPoint tools. So again, this is kind of the next iteration in Tech Tuesday. Looking at PowerPoint tips and tricks, design, and voiceover video are the main things. But like I said, we are going to be looking at some new stuff as well. So I am Jake Massey, program development and training specialist here at NEFEC, usually focusing in mathematics. Today I got to talk about math in the last two sessions for the first time since February, and it was exciting. But I do also love technology. I'm not a guru of any kind. I'm just a user of technology, and I like to click on things that you're not supposed to click on so that I can figure out what they do. And sometimes that teaches me new things, and sometimes it makes me scratch my head. But today, hopefully, I'll show you some of the new things I've learned just by clicking all over the place. And I'm joined by Suzanne Beck. She's here with me as well. She's going to help kind of moderate the chat. Suzanne, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Suzanne Beck, and I've been with NEFEC about a year and a half. And technology is not necessarily my strength, but I have enjoyed dabbling and figuring out this new world of social distancing and online learning. And Jake and I had both done some things separately with talking through a PowerPoint for a presentation. And so it's exciting to be part of it. So thanks for letting me be here with you today.
And don't sell yourself short. You're the reason that this is happening. So you taught me something. You taught me something that sent me down the rabbit hole of PowerPoint. Like many of you, I went to the world of Google and never touched Microsoft again. But here recently, I've been diving into a lot of features in PowerPoint that I think are pretty great. One of them I actually just discovered today. I'm going to show you real quick. Hopefully now you can see there's captions at the bottom. In present mode of PowerPoint, we can actually get live closed captions. Now it does operate like many of the live closed captions. It's not always going to be perfect. I'm trying right now to speak very intentionally so that it will be as close as possible. But this is a pretty cool feature. All you have to do once you're in present mode, the options at the bottom left of the screen, it's the one in the middle. It looks like a blank screen with some dotted lines at the bottom. I guess those dotted lines are supposed to represent little words. Those are your closed captions, so you can turn those on and off. I'm going to turn them off for now just because I am recording this, and I don't want it to assume I'm saying something bad and that pop up in the video and that be recorded for all time. So I'm going to turn it off for now, but that is a really cool feature there. So I'm actually going to jump out of present mode now anyway, so that I can start to show you some of the new features that I've discovered since we last talked, if you're a returning PowerPoint participant. And so the first one is going to be 3D shapes and 3D models, which as a math teacher, once I discovered this, I immediately wanted to go back in time and reteach to all my geometry students forever, because this is really, really, really cool. I'm going to go ahead and throw this out. I am working on PowerPoint for Office 365. I can't guarantee that all of these features are available if you're working on anything else. I know some of them are. Last time we met, we ran into some issues based on version. So I'm just going to kind of throw it out there once and let this kind of sit over the whole day. I can guarantee these are here if you're working on the newest version of PowerPoint for Office 365. Anything other than that, I can't guarantee. And I wish I was your tech guy so that I could make it happen for you. But unfortunately, I can't. If you send me their email address, though, I will blast them every day for you and beg that they get it in case you want that. So that's the best I can offer. So the 3D models on the insert. So at the top, we have all of our little options here. I'm going to be on the insert menu. Next to what just used to be shapes, we now have icons, which is another great one I love, and 3D models. And so I'm going to open up 3D models here. I'm going to get a little menu showing me all of the 3D models we have. And they're sorted by type. I'm going to come down to 3D shapes because this is what I would probably use the most of if I were in the classroom. And I can grab this. I think it's a hexagonal prism. We're going to find out in just a second. So I'm going to insert this. But what makes it so great is I can actually click and drag and rotate this. And I mean, if you're teaching math and you don't have an actual hexagonal prism in your class to let students kind of see like what makes it a prism, to turn it and see all of the rectangles as the sides, to see it from different angles. I mean, what a great resource, a really cool way to do that. There's even some, I'm going to delete it. I'm only going to put in one at a time because they are pretty big files. There's some great geography ones as well. I think there's an animated Earth, which is just super cool. And uh-oh, try that one more time. Like I said, some of these are pretty big files. So we've got Earth here, and there's some animation going on. I wish I could tell you what that animation was. I didn't pay attention enough in my social science classes or science classes, I guess. Maybe jet streams. I don't know. I shouldn't even have said anything because I'm probably not right. But a really cool model, again, that is animated 3D. We can kind of rotate it. So that's the first one. Again, it's just under insert and then 3D models. That's up near the top of the screen. So that's the first one that I want to show you there. Another one I want to show you, I can think of some uses. But this is really more of just kind of a cool gimmicky thing to make your slides look really good. It's going to start with a feature that's been around for a little bit, a not well-known feature, but a feature that has been around for a little bit. But this latest version has made some really cool changes that you can kind of sneak around and do some even cooler stuff. And that is Morph Animations. So something that has been around for a few versions. I'm just going to create a rectangle here on this slide, and then I'm going to insert another rectangle on this slide. If we have shapes that have the same name, going from one slide to another, or really any image, if I have an image, a picture of myself here on one slide, I can put it over here bigger on another slide. From one slide to the next, if I go to animations, like you would add any animation, one of the really cool animations is Morph. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to find Morph. Where did Morph go? It's disappeared on me. Oh, sorry, not animations, transitions. Because we're transitioning from one slide to the next, not an animation on one slide, sorry. I'm going to select Morph, and you can kind of see what just happened. It went back to the previous slide, and it's going to morph from here to the next. So if I'm in present mode, when I go to the next slide, that morph will see the one shape kind of morph to the next one. So it's kind of cool. But if I have two different types of images, let's say my next slide, I do a triangle. And I do the same thing. It's just one's gonna fade out and the other one's gonna fade in. It doesn't actually morph. But there's a little kind of sneaky trick to this. And if this is something you think you might like or want to do, I suggest writing it down or make sure you come back to the video later, because there are a couple more clicks than normal here. On the Home tab, we need to open up the selection pane. And so the way we do that is on the Home tab, Arrange, Selection pane. So Home tab, Arrange, Selection pane. That's just going to open up the selection pane, and I can see what the names of the images that I have selected. And so the way we have to do this is we're going to rename them with the same name and a little extra feature. So this only works, I don't know why, I just know it does, if you start the name with 2 exclamation points, and I'm just going to say shape. So exclamation, exclamation, shape. And then I need to give this next shape the same name. It's got to start with the 2 exclamations, shape. Again, I can't tell you why this works. I just know it does, and it's really cool. So if I go to present mode now, you'll see that it actually does morph from one shape to the other. It doesn't fade one out and fade the other in. So I think it's gimmicky more than anything, but it's certainly something I think I'm going to use to make my slides look better and just have some cooler looking transitions going from one slide to another. All right, and again, that was a lot of clicking to make that one little thing happen. I get that. This is being recorded, though, if you want to go back there. Another feature that I want to show you that is new is the draw feature. And this is especially cool if you have a MacBook with a trackpad or if you have a Windows machine with a touch screen. And so draw, if you've ever used OneNote, it basically puts all of the features of OneNote, Microsoft OneNote, into Microsoft PowerPoint. So we can actually draw and create really cool things. And the reason I said it's really cool if you have a touch screen, obviously you can just touch your screen and draw on the screen. It works a lot better than using your cursor. But if you're working on a Mac, there's this feature, like I'm working on a MacBook Pro right now. I can turn this on and draw with my trackpad. And basically right now, I'm just writing on my trackpad. Hello. So that's kind of cool. And there's some, it says I can use 2 fingers to move it around. Write my name here again. Kind of gimmicky, but maybe kind of cool. And then press any key to get out of that. I can, of course, just draw using my cursor and my mouse kind of intuitively like you might think you would be able to do. And then one of the really cool things about animations and transitions with this feature is if I go into animations, I can actually animate any of my drawings based on, I can animate any of my drawings based on the way that I drew them. If it would let me get out, there we go. So I'm going to, my highlighter's like stuck on here. There we go. I had to click a key to get off the highlighter. If I select where I wrote hello, I can set the animation under animations to just replay, and the animation will be just exactly the way that I wrote it. So that's another really cool, feature. Again, kind of gimmicky. There may be some applications that help, but today is really more about just what are some cool features that could make your presentations, kind of step up a little bit. In the world of virtual learning, it may be easy for all students to have death by PowerPoint. So if we can do all we can to make things, just a little more interactive and look a little more fun. And it also makes things more interesting for the developer, I think, as well. And that's us. If, even if it's simple, we are still developing. All right, so a couple more new features that I'm going to share with you, and then we'll get into some of the other things that we've already talked about as well. So I'm going to go over to the Insert menu, and there's another new feature called Zoom. And Zoom is going to make the presentation mode. So when we're presenting to students, whether it's brick and mortar classroom or whether it's virtual or whether it's both, it's going to make that presentation a lot more interactive. And so there's 3 different modes. I'm just going to go through each of them very quickly. So summary mode, you'll see it's going to bring up an ability for me to choose some slides. So I'm going to choose which slides that I want. Actually, I'll just do it, and then you'll see how it works, and that might help inform which slides you would choose. So I'm just going to stick with the default here and click Insert. So you'll see this actually gave me a new slide that has the slides that were selected. And when I go to present here, these are active links to each of those slides. So if I need to be able to move around my presentation in a way that's not necessarily linear, if I need to jump from one place to another and then come back and then go over here and then go over there and move all around in my slides, the new zoom feature is a really great way to do that. So if I click, say here, that's going to take me forward in my slide. I can click again, and it's going to take me back to my zoom, and then I can come here. It'll take me to that slide, and then I can just click through, and it will continue on my slide. But if I'm clicking my cursor on the screen, it's going to take me back and forth to these places that I selected when I set that up, and I could just delete it if I don't like it. I can set the zoom up based on, from that method, or based on sections. So if you weren't aware that you can do this, you can actually create sections in your slides just by right-clicking on a slide, or two-finger clicking, depending on your machine. Click Add Section, and it will give you sections of your slides. And depending on how you've created sections, then I'll get a screen, a similar screen of all my sections. And then so I can have like a little hyperlink on any random slide that will take me straight to a different section of my slide. So again, the idea is the same. It's just how you interact is different depending on which of those 3 zoom modes you choose. But again, the purpose of that is so that you can bounce around your slides. You don't have to necessarily navigate through them in a linear fashion. You can jump from one place to another without having to click through a bunch. And if you only have 13 slides, maybe that's not a big deal. But I've done presentations that, I had one presentation that I did for 4 days and had, I don't know, Suzanne, how many slides did we have last summer? Like 200?
Yeah, slides? 280 or something.
Yeah, and that sounds like a lot, but it was 4 6-hour days in a row. And so that was a lot of slides. And I'm definitely probably going to use this feature moving forward because it's going to allow me to navigate sections much easier than having to click 100 times if I need to advance 100 slides. So another really good feature. The last 2 that I'm going to talk about are going to be pretty quick. They're pretty simple, self-explanatory things. There is now a dictate and a translate feature in PowerPoint, which is really cool. So dictate is going to be under the insert menu. Over, where did it go? I said it was, and now I can't find it. It's probably right in front of me. I'll come back to that one in just a second. I'll show you translate because I know right where that is because I just played around with that one a second ago. So under the review, we can translate text. So if I say select all of this text here, on the review tab, I have a translate button. I can hit translate and then choose it detected that my original was in English, and then I can translate it to any of these languages given. So it looked like the default was Spanish, or maybe I had just chose Spanish before, and it gives me a translation of that. So that's pretty great that you can do that right in PowerPoint. If you have to have a translation, you don't have to go into a third-party app to do that. Unfortunately, I don't speak Spanish, so I can't tell you how accurate that is. I hope it's somewhat accurate. And then dictate, like I said, I know it's on the insert tab somewhere. Maybe I've just accidentally hidden it, but it's pretty simple. You just click the button and you start talking once you have a text box, and it will automatically go in. Now I feel silly for telling you that you can do something that I think I may have accidentally hidden somehow. I don't want to waste your time, so I'm just going to move past that. Sorry. The last one, and this is another one that is going to save me so much time in the future. Imagine a scenario where you're creating a new version of slides, or for a new class, but you know what you need to create, you've already created before for something else. So you go digging through that and you copy all the material from one slide, and then you go to the next slide and you paste it in, and now all your formatting is wrong and you got to try to make it work. So there's a new feature called reuse slides, and when you go to add a new slide, just like you would any new slide, you'll see this new option of reuse slide. And when you click there, it's going to take you to your files. And then in your files, if you have any presentations saved on your machine, and I actually probably don't on this machine because I work completely out of OneDrive on this machine. But if you have any files, any PowerPoint files on your machine, you'll be able to open that file and import the slides straight into the new slides. No copying and pasting is involved in order to do that. So, like for example, a lot of what I do in professional development, my first 4 or 5 slides are kind of always the same, like my norms and my introduction, things like that, where I'm always looking one version and copying and pasting into a new version and trying to make things match. Where this, I could just add those slides directly in, and PowerPoint's going to do all of that on the back end for me. So like I said, I don't have any actually saved on this machine, so can't demonstrate that for you. But I've seen it in action, and I've done it on my other machine, and it works pretty straightforward. You just kind of open the file, and there will be a little menu that opens up on the right side, and you just select which slide you want from that previous slideshow, and it puts it straight in.
Jake, there's a question by Barbara Davis. So you just highlight or select just the slides you want to import, correct?
Yes. So it will open up the slides in a menu, like it'll open up the slides in another menu on your screen. So over here on the right side, like when we opened up the selection pane or any other menus we open inside of PowerPoint, how it gives you a new menu on the right, it will show you the slides over there. And then you just select the ones you want to import and you click insert.
And Tara, you asked if the dictate button was under audio. It actually, I opened PowerPoint just to see, and Jake has hidden his somehow because it's on that first ribbon. When you're at the home screen, Jake, can you go back to the home screen? Mine is before the design ideas. There's a little box that has dictate on that. So somehow, Jake, you have hidden it. It's right here. I think I can't read what yours says, but it's right before the design ideas tab.
All right, let me, it's on the home tab. Yeah, okay. So here's what I'll do so I can show you. I've got my other device open here as well because I'm using that to monitor the chat. I'm just going to switch to sharing that screen for a moment because it is on this device. So yeah, I don't know. I have to go in and unhide that. So I've got some other slides brought up from earlier, but you'll see on the home tab, like she said, right next to design ideas, we have dictate. So I'm going to insert a blank slide here and insert just a text box. And then I will now go to dictate. So I'm going to dictate, make sure I select my language. This should now be dictating text, comma. It should also pick up punctuation, period.
I think that would be an awesome tool for your ELLs. If you had, let's say, I mean, my children came from Ukraine and they spoke Russian. And so if you had one single Russian speaking child in your class, that would be a really nice tool to be able to meet their needs in that transition for them. So I think that's a really cool tab option.
Yeah, and in conjunction with the with the translate, the dictation of the translate, that maybe using those two features in tandem could be very, very beneficial as well. So I know that was a lot really fast, but I wanted to kind of honor all the participants that were here last time and give you a little bit of new features. This is recorded. The link to the recording will be in the calendar invite. So if you need to go back and watch that, 5 times over to get each feature down, feel free to do that. So I'm gonna now jump into the rest of this. We'll kind of go quickly through it. I know this has been the first kind of late afternoon Tech Tuesday we've done. So my goal, just to let you know, is to be done around 4:15 or so. I know it's summer. We don't want to be working too late in the summer. So we're now going to get into the design ideas in the voiceover video section. So kind of 2 parts here that we're going to take into a little more detail than we did those first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or so other new features. So the designer, the purpose of the designer, and the reason I've been using it so much, and this is really the main reason I've switched from Google Slides back to PowerPoint, is it very easily makes the content look professional, look polished, grab attention of the audience. And the biggest thing is it saves time. If I could quantify the amount of time I have spent formatting slides in the past 10 years of my career as an educator, it would probably make me cry, and it would probably make all of my supervisors and people that are signing checks and taxpayers cringe, knowing that much money was spent formatting slides. And so this is saving a lot of time, allowing you to really focus on what is important. So how do we do this? So the first thing I'm going to do, we have a tab up here called Design, and most of it's going to be done under Design. So we're going to select the Design tab. And then on the right of the Design ribbon, so this is the ribbon where we have all of our different themes. You could choose a theme if you want. If you choose a theme, it's going to base your design ideas around the theme you choose. If you don't choose a theme at first, which is what I like to do, you get a little more variation in your initial design ideas, and then it will kind of then give you a theme from there. So on the right, we'll select Design Ideas, and we're going to get this new window, and we'll be given lots of options here that are going to auto-adapt based on the content. Sometimes it will even auto-choose icons if it thinks it can assume what the topic is about, which is a really cool feature. Sometimes it gets the icons right. Sometimes it will get some of them right, and then you can fix the ones that it got wrong. And it will also format based on, whether you have bullets or sub-bullets, and so on and so forth. And then once you click one, it's going to adapt based on what I chose. So if I choose this one, and then I let it refresh, I'll just close it and open it back up. It's going to give me new design ideas that are sort of around that same color palette. I chose one that had some icons, so it's now giving me more options with more icons. It would have taken me probably at best 4 to 5 minutes to make the slide look like this. And that's if I even had an idea. Most of the time I spend formatting is just playing around because I don't even really know what I want it to look like when I start. And so I change a couple things. I'm like, I don't like how that looks. I change a couple more things. Oh, I don't like that either. This is giving you ideas that are sort of clean and polished, and it's something to kind of stick to. And it's a little more concrete and easy of a choice for me. And then the rest of the choices that I make are now going to be, or the options I'm given are going to be based around my first selection. So if I go back to this slide, I've got more design ideas that match the last one that I chose. So I could choose this. So designer, now we don't just have plain bullets. We have some nice graphics that are organizing the thoughts. And again, as you choose one, it's going to give you more things with different options based around that. I could pick another one, let that refresh. It's going to give me some more ideas and some more graphics. They're not always going to be applicable. I kind of like this one here because we have sort of a flow chart showing. First, we select the design tab, and then on the right, we click here. It's showing kind of the flow chart of how we get there. If we do select a theme, say I pick this theme, it actually is then going to readjust all of my choices based on the theme that I pick if I do pick a theme. And so that's another pretty cool feature. I'm going to back up a couple steps because I didn't really like those. You can always Control Z or Command Z your way out of any problem. If only real life were as easy as Command Z. So that's really it for that. I mean, design ideas is that simple. PowerPoint is doing the work for you. You can kind of go through and make changes if you need to, and it's going to continue to auto adapt based on that. You can, once you click on something that is in your design, you'll see I get a couple new options up here. So if I click off those things, those two menu items just went away. If I click here, I can go into Smartart design and pick some different color palettes. Maybe I like the multicolor, or maybe I want to stick with some grays. I did kind of like that multicolored there. That was nice. And then I also have a new format tab where I can do some formatting on the text and different things. If we need to edit the text, this is actually created, this design idea created what is called Smartart. And so to edit the text, I get this new menu to edit the text. And we're going to get into Smartart in just a second. So you'll see a little bit more about that. But that's design ideas. Again, very, very straightforward. You're just clicking and letting PowerPoint do the work for you. So the next one, I'm going to give this a design. Got to make it look better as we work our way through now. So Smartart. So Smartart is going to allow for easier formatting of text, and it's also going to be based on the content of your text. You can choose. A lot of the design ideas are going to use Smartart automatically, and it will try to align that Smartart with what it thinks your content is. It's not perfect, but it will at least try. But we're going to look at how to create Smartart from scratch. Not letting the sort of AI of PowerPoint choose it for you. And you can create Smartart from scratch with no text, or you can convert traditional text, something you already have, into Smartart. And I'm going to show you both of those. So I have a blank slide here, nothing on it. I just insert, add new blank slide. On the Insert tab next to 3D models where we looked earlier, we have Smartart. And so there are lots of different types of Smartarts. We have different ways to do lists, processes, cycles, depending on the content or the point you're trying to get across. We've got lots of different types of models and things that we can do. So I'm just going to pick one based on what it looks like, because there's no real purpose here. So some cool gears. I'll also get some design ideas that come along with it if I have that menu open. So that's pretty cool. But now I'll just get some blank text. And with the Smartart, I'm not actually going to, I could click on this text and edit here, but it's easier so there's a little arrow on the side of your Smartart. If you open that up, and then now you can edit your text in this smaller window. So I'm just going to give it generic names for now. Item 1, item 2, item 3. But that's creating Smartart from scratch. So we insert new Smartart, we get blank text, and then we can add our text. But what if we want to format something that we already have text for? I have a slide with a title and with some bullets. I can select that text box, and then on the Home tab this time, because think about when you're editing text, you would be on the Home tab. That's where your font and font sizes and things are. We have this button that says Convert to Smartart. And I like this because it will actually let me kind of, well, I must have slow internet right now. It will usually buffer what those would look like as I hover, and would change them live in the screen, but I must be dragging with my internet connection right now. But you can then choose what you like based on what your content is. So I just have kind of a list of items. So I think I'm just going to go with this one here, and it will list out my items. And then it even has, you'll see this right here is, it's giving me an option to add in some images. I could add in some like bullets or small images if I wanted to, or if I don't like that, I I could just delete. I could delete those out or not put them in. And when you present, it will show it. It will show it blank. And then what I really like about the Smartart too, if you're converting text that you already have, is it will adapt. It will adapt based on the way your text is set up. So if you have bullets and then sub bullets, it will automatically format that Smartart accordingly. So like if I select this one where it looks like we have some text and then text off to the side, it's going to put my main item on the side and then my sub points coming out with it. And I can, you know, change the Smartart if I wanted something different. Maybe I like that one. We can, you know, keep clicking all of the different options until we find something that we like. And then as always, Command Z will undo anything. In the Smartart, just like before, we get these new buttons here when we have Smartart selected where we can format and change that, change the colors. Maybe I want the various, this same color palette that I had earlier that's gonna go along with my other slides. So we're starting to get a little bit of a theme going on here. Maybe I'll go ahead and change this one to that color palette as well. All right, there we go. So starting to get a little bit of a theme come together here. So that is the design ideas in the Smartart. So the big idea there is we're trying to come up with something that looks good, that looks clean, but is easy to attain. PowerPoint is doing all of the heavy lifting, and PowerPoint is doing all of the formatting. So I'm going to stop for just a couple minutes. I've been talking nonstop for about 40 minutes, I think. And just kind of hang out in the chat and see if you have any questions. These features on PowerPoint, and you can access them right now. This would be a good time to kind of jump in and click around and try some of this on your own. And maybe there's something that you want to share or questions that you develop. And certainly if you have any questions already, now would be a great time to enter those into the chat. And yeah, Tara, I see your comment there. Your Smartart is under the insert heading. And so it depends on how you are using the Smartart. If you're creating new Smartart from scratch, that's where it's going to be. Smartart is under the insert heading, under that tab. It's under the home tab if you are converting traditional text to Smartart. Because when you're starting with traditional text, like I'll move ahead a couple slides here. The home tab is where you edit text. And so that's the only time that there's the convert to Smartart tab. That's actually a different button than if you are inserting new Smartart. So it is in both places. It just depends on your purpose and which direction you're creating. Is it text first, or are you creating the Smartart and then you're adding text into the Smartart? I'm going to wait just a minute in case anyone is playing around in PowerPoint currently. I don't want to jump ahead and assume that no one is. So just like anything that you're doing from PowerPoint to slides, it just depends on the images and the the text formatting you've done. It never works perfectly, but often I think it works enough. I'm referring to the question about creating a PowerPoint and then converting it into slides. If it's going to be something where you don't think you want to create in PowerPoint, but where you'll be sharing, you don't have access to PowerPoint. If your slides aren't interactive, if your slides are just static slides, you could always just, I normally wouldn't do this, but you could always just save it as a PDF and share that way. PDF is a very flexible file, but then of course you're going to lose any animations and transitions and all the things that you add to it as well. But I think enough of it would transfer from PowerPoint to slides. But the good news is with Office 365, if that's what you're using, you can access PowerPoint via the web, just like Google Slides now. In my opinion, the collaboration doesn't work as well, but if it's just for presentation purposes, you can access any of the Microsoft apps on the web, just like you can with Google. So I could, if I created something on my device and then I traveled and I was using a device that wasn't my own, that didn't have PowerPoint, but it had internet access, I can log on to Office 365, just like I could log on to Google and use Google Slides. Which would also be, great if you have you have a computer at home where you're planning, even though I know teachers never have to plan at home. And then you go to work and you have a different device in your classroom. You don't travel with a device. You can use the web version to create at home, and then you can access it in your classroom, and you don't have to worry about traveling with a flash drive or something as well. The same benefit you get with Google. And if you don't, speaking of that, if you don't have the latest version of PowerPoint, but your district is an Office 365 district, like if you have access to Office 365, you may have all of this and not know it. You may actually have access to the web version of what we're looking at. I think some of the features may not be there on the web version. I think we talked about that in the last session, but most of the features are there in the web version, even if you don't have the most recent on your machine. If you have an Office 365 account, you can get on to the newest version of PowerPoint through the web version and use the majority of the tools that we're looking at today. All right, so I'm going to now jump into the next part here. And this is kind of where it all started. And Suzanne, interrupt me anytime you want here, because this is I always seem to forget things here, because this one is your baby. But I've certainly done it as well, and I know how it works. So we're going to look at some narrated video. So this is a great way to help students in the asynchronous environment. I know the majority of your students are going to be synchronous, whether they are, whether they're in class brick and mortar with you, or whether they're at home logging in. But there's certainly times where students are going to be interacting with knowledge in an asynchronous fashion. Maybe they missed something and they're catching up. Maybe you need to post some content, or maybe you do have students and you're in a district where there are some asynchronous options for students. This is a way that you can capture your presentations and some narrations in a video straight from PowerPoint. And so the reason that this is great is it's not going to use any third-party software at all. Everything that we're going to do is all done within PowerPoint. You don't have to have anything added onto your computer. You don't have to go into anything else. You can do it all directly through PowerPoint, and it gives you just a little better editing control. Of course, you could use something like Zoom or Google Meets or Microsoft Teams, and just create a virtual call with just yourself and record that session and go through all your slides and talk through your slides and your animations. But then once you have that video, that's all you have. You can't really do anything with it. I like doing it this way because we can actually go through and edit some things a little easier and make changes without having to completely start over if I get 90% of the way through my video and I mess up, and I don't want that in there. But now I'm stuck and I have to start over. This will allow you to sort of do it in smaller pieces and then edit. So there's actually two ways to do this. I'm gonna do one. I'm gonna talk through one, do my best to talk through a second way to do it, but the second way is the way Suzanne does it. And so I'm not as familiar, but I actually, every time I see her talk about the way she's done it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's so much easier. So I'm gonna let her chime in as well. So on the insert tab, over on the right, we have the audio button here. So it's the last option here. We're going to add audio to our slide. And so we can do this two ways. One of a couple ways. We can insert audio from the browser or file. But that's not what we're going to do. We're going to record new audio. And when I click record new audio, I get this little record menu. Once I click the record button, it's going to start recording everything that I'm going to be saying. So what I would do if I were preparing this for students is I would record myself talking through this as if I was teaching the content. So now it's capturing everything that I'm saying, even though it makes no sense based on the context of the slide. I just want to get it in there for the example. See the little runtime going, showing that that it is recording. When I'm done recording, I'm just going to hit stop and then insert. And I know it worked because I get this little speaker icon. It usually puts it right in the middle of the screen. I'm going to drag it out of the way. At the end of this, I don't really need to access this. If I were doing this in a synchronous fashion and I was recording something that I wanted students to hear, like let's say I had a guest speaker, and I record something that I want to play for my students and that person's not going to be with me, I could have them record it, and then in a synchronous fashion in a brick and mortar classroom or virtually, then I could come through and as I'm presenting my slides, I could play that and it would play that audio for them. But for what I'm showing you now, we don't actually need to play. PowerPoint's going to take care of that when we export everything out as a video. So I would do that on every slide. Every slide that I need narration, I would click the next one, audio, record audio. Hit record, record my file, talking through the slide, hit stop, insert, get that little speaker icon out of my way because I don't need it right now, and then continue on through all of my slides and record all of my audio. If I needed any animations or transitions between slides, I would add that. Everything else I would do, you're going to take care of that. Before this next step, the exporting video, this would be the very last thing you do. Your slides are done, your text is done, your animations are done, your designs are done, your Smartart is done, your animations, your transitions, you have everything set up. Now what we're going to do is export the PowerPoint out as a video file. And so to do that, I'm actually going to show you twice. I'm going to show you on my Mac and I'm going to show you on my PC so that you can see what it looks like because the menus are a little different. So starting on the Mac, I'm going to go to select File from the menu, and then I'm not going to click Save. I'm going to click Export. And then the default is to OneDrive. I don't want it going to OneDrive, so I'm going to click on my Mac. And then I'm going to select my file type, and I want to select MP4. I want to export this out as an MP4, and then I can actually change my presentation quality. So the default is HD 1920 by 1080, which is great. I'm going to go say internet quality, which is still HD, but it's not quite 1080. I think 720 is probably good. The benefit there is it's a much smaller file. And then the last thing I have is timing. So I'm going to click to use recorded timings and narrations. It's not going to let me click that right now because I didn't actually go through and set that up. But if I set up my narrations on all my slides, if I set up transitions on everything, it would let me click this. And then the last thing is seconds spent on each slide. So I'm going to set this. This is going to be independent of your audio that you've entered. So if I have an audio file that's 15 seconds on my first slide, when it creates my video, as soon as the video starts, it's going to play my audio file, and the audio file is going to play for 15 seconds, however long the audio file is. And then once all of the audio files, the animations, and everything is completed based on how I've set that slide up, then 5 seconds will go by, or 6 seconds, or 7 seconds, or 8 seconds, just wherever I set it. The default is 5. I think that's probably good because any narrations you do, or you're going to have that time anyways. This isn't going to take away from anything. It's going to add on top of everything else you've set up. So once you've set that up, you give it a name. I'm not going to worry about naming it. Right now, it's just going to save to my desktop. Live on the wild side. Have a messy desktop. It's all right. And I'm going to hit export. It may take a minute. This one's really not going to take that long because I don't have a lot of slides, and it's not very fancy because I've just been designing it as I go, and I only had two recordings. But you'll see down at the bottom, it actually is still loading. It is still an HD. It is still an HD video file. So now I'm going to go find that file and open it up for you. And you'll see 5 seconds will go by, and it's going to go to my next slide. 5 seconds is going to go by, and it's going to go to my next slide, and so on and so forth. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to where I narrated so that you can see. I don't think you'll hear it, but you'll see that it sits on those slides a little bit longer. Oh, so now it's capturing everything that I'm saying. I don't know if y'all can hear that or not. I can hear it coming out of my speakers. Suzanne, can y'all hear that? Hit record my file, talking through the slide. So you may not have been able to hear that, but hopefully you noticed that it was on that slide for longer than 5 seconds. That's because it went through all of my narration, all of my talking, and then it waited 5 seconds, and then it went to the next slide. And then it captured, then it played my audio that I recorded on that next slide. It went for, the duration of that, and then played, it waited 5 seconds, and then went ahead and went on to the next slide. So that is one way to do it. And while I'm thinking about it, it's because I can, and it's bugging me that these slides don't look as good as they could right now. I'm going to do some. Oh, well, here's a good teachable moment, I guess. Design ideas doesn't always work. Sometimes based on the way your text is formatted, it doesn't really have any good ideas, or, oh, I know exactly what it is. It's because this speaker icon is down here and it's treating it like an image. It doesn't really know what to do with it. So I'm going to delete that. I don't need it right now. Anyways, I'm going to give that a quick design to make these slides look a little better. So with that in mind, another thing to mention that's important to note, you don't want to record any of your audio until your slides are set the way you want them. Especially if you're going to use design ideas, because once you add the audio to the slide, it kind of freaks out the design ideas and it doesn't really know how to act. So these last two things that we're talking about, the narrating your slides and exporting as a video, these should always be your last steps. So second to last step is your narration, and then your very last step, of course, is exporting out as a video. There is another way to do this as well. Instead of doing it one slide at a time, I'm going to go back to my first slide and go to the Slideshow tab and then click Record Slideshow. And so now this is recording. You'll see a little timer running. It is recording everything that I'm saying, and it's recording everything that I'm doing live on the slides. And whenever I click to go to the next slide, it's capturing that timing as well. So if I wait, 12 seconds to click in my recording, it's going to capture that 12 seconds. And if I wait to click, It's going to click. It's getting all of that. It's going to get my animation, like this little morph that we did earlier. It's going to get this little playthrough that I did earlier. So it's going to capture all of that, any animations that I set up, and all of my narrations. And then when we get to the end, it's going to stop, and then you'll see all of these little timestamps, and you can see at the end where I just started flying through it, all of these timings. And then I have some options. So in my recording, if I export this out, do I want to play the narrations? So I could turn that off and then go record narrations separately. Do I want to use the timings? Do I want to show any media controls that we may add? That's another feature that we haven't talked about. Do I want to use subtitles? Another way to insert subtitles, if you have that turned on, it will put the subtitles in your recording, and then some settings for the subtitles. It's always smart to go in and check and make sure that your default language is set up right. They work a little better. They work a little better if that's the case. But now I'll go back home.
Jake, one thing on that, if you were to go to the slideshow and do your entire slideshow at one time, make sure you pause for 2 to 3 seconds at the end of each slide, because what will happen is as you click, if you continue talking, your 5-second delay or whatever you put at the end will chop off what you said. So I did an entire slideshow and then had to go back and redo it because I hadn't paused at the end of each slide to allow that 5 seconds. Does that make sense?
Yeah, great. I knew you were going to add something there because I've never actually done it this way. I keep telling myself I need to try it because it does.
My biggest takeaway. And then also, if you click record slideshow, it gives you the option to do your video at the bottom. So when I go into record slideshow, if you look at the bottom right hand corner, you can also play a video at the same time. And I don't actually have it set up on my, let me see. I don't see it on yours either. Do you see in the right hand corner, do you see the option for video?
I did not. I think I know what you're talking about. I think I've seen it before, but I'm not.
So if you want,
sure.
I can share my screen well, I can't share it, can I, on Google Drive?
If you've got it there, yeah, you can share. It'll kick me off and let you share. That's okay.
So click where it says entire screen. Let's see if it works.
Yep.
Okay, so can you guys see my screen?
Oh, maybe there we go.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so when you click on this, look right at the bottom down here, it gives me the option to turn on my video camera, and I haven't set that up on this. On my laptop, I could do that. So it actually brings up a little talking box in the corner, just like if you were on Microsoft Teams or whatever, and it captures you speaking in real time. So that was kind of a neat feature also. So I was doing a series of videos, and some of them I could turn on my video camera and present that way as well. Does that make sense?
I think we might be looking at a different screen than you, Suzanne. I was looking for it thinking maybe it was just me, but I do see a comment that confirming that. So I think it's probably because you're on your desktop with multiple screens hooked up. We were just looking at we were probably just looking at the wrong screen.
Are you looking at the white screen that says cool features?
No, we just had the presentation screen.
Can you see it now?
I don't think you're sharing anymore.
Okay. It's strange because it looks like on my end that I am sharing, so I don't know. Okay. I released it back to you. But there is a box when you click on the slideshow and it says record slideshow. When you click on that and go into that box, on the bottom right hand corner, you have your microphone, and then you also have a little It looks like an old-time video camera. And if you click on that, it gives you the window.
I'm gonna check it out on my PC here. See if I have that. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, so let me show y'all here. I've got it working now. I guess I just have PowerPoint on my Mac all messed up. I probably need to just give it a good reboot. Sometimes it hurts me how much just rebooting is actually the answer. You think it should be more complicated than that. All right, so hopefully everyone can see that. Yeah, there we go. All right, so slideshow, same place we were before. Record slideshow. So I think this is the screen that Suzanne, you're talking about. This is actually the default screen. I guess I've really messed something up on PowerPoint on my MacBook Pro. So we can record and stop just like we had before, but now at the bottom we can turn our microphone on and off to capture the narration, and we can also turn the video on and off, and it's going to capture video if you want to have video in your recording as well, and it's going to embed those videos so that when you then do the same exporting process, it's going to export out with your video as well. It's going to make your file a little bigger, but if you're exporting out as a video, depending on how you share it, it may not matter. If you're using Google Drive, as educators, you have infinite space essentially in Google Drive. One of my favorite ways to share videos, regardless of what it is YouTube. If you have a Google account, you have a YouTube account. You can sign into Google with your YouTube, or into YouTube with your Google account, and then you could just post a video and make it private, and then you can share the link with students or embed that video, anywhere that you would want to, embed that. So I'm going to close this now, and then I'm glad I'm sharing over here on the PC anyways, because I do still need to show you the exporting process on the PC, because it does look a little bit different. So starting the same, we're going to go File, but now the menu looks a little different, but it's still export. All the buttons are the same, they're just in different places. So File, Export, and then here, instead of choosing a file type, we're going to hit Create Video, and then it's going to automatically do the MP4 for you. You can choose some different file sizes. Again, I would recommend 720. It's going to look really good, but you're not going to have, you're not going to have to wait for hours for your video to download. If you're really struggling with internet speed, maybe go even smaller. But as far as internet speed is the only thing I would worry about with file size. As far as file size goes for your devices in Google Drive or YouTube, you've got infinite space there. But internet speed is going to determine what size you want. You can use your narrations if you have any. On this specific slideshow, I don't have any, so it's not going to let me choose that. I still have the second spent. I would choose that, and then I would hit Create Video. And then I just choose where I want it to go. MP4 was the default already because I already told it that I wanted to do a video, and then you'll see now that we are beginning to download that video file. So again, like I said, internet speed may determine your file size, because once I want to upload this to Google Drive or YouTube, an MP4 or 720, it's not a tiny file. It may take a little bit of time, but it's certainly not as big as 1080 or as 4K. Again, I could always drop the file size down if I needed to go even smaller. All right, so I'm not gonna ask if you were a part of the last session, y'all to kind of play around on your own like we did before, because I know lesson learned, there were some version issues of PowerPoint that were kind of in the way. Maybe some of you have remedied those issues since then. And maybe that's why you came back. That'd be really cool. But I do, like I told y'all, I was shooting for like 4:15. It is 4:06, so we've got some time for questions and things. If you have any questions on any of these features. I do want to remind you it has been recorded. I'll send you an updated email once that recording gets posted to the calendar if you need it. But I'm going to watch the chat if there's any questions. I am going to add in my email address and phone number one more time. Please feel free to reach out anytime. Yeah, so adding a video, if you have that video on your device, let me share my screen, show you where that's at. Insert, new slide. All right, so if I go insert video, then I can either look on the browser if there are any files there, or I think probably the best way in a way that you won't have to worry about internet connection or things like that getting in the way of your video playing is to have the video downloaded to your device, and then you'll just movie from file, and you'll find that file. So like you can see, I've got the video that I just exported here earlier, so I could import that video file in and play that video. Yeah, you'll be able to import a video that way. Unfortunately, you can't embed a YouTube video like you can with Google Slides. YouTube is owned by Google, so that's kind of a relationship they have going on there. That's why YouTube works so well with Google Slides, is because YouTube is Google. Very shortly after YouTube began, they were bought by Google. Didn't last very long on their own. Well, I guess rather the opposite. They did so well on their own that Google bought them for lots and lots of money very fast. But yeah, short answer there is you can add a video. It's just not as flexible as Google. All right, so I've seen a couple people starting to sign off, so I give a little goodbye, I guess, but I'll hang out if I need to answer some more questions. Thank you all so much for being here again. My email and phone number is there in the chat, so reach out anytime. I've seen some of you. Let me know that you will be. We are here to support, and I love doing it, so anytime.
Thank you, Anjana. We have thoroughly enjoyed Tech Tuesdays. They've been a great experience for us. Yeah. So we're glad, and thank you guys that have joined over and over and over. We appreciate you. Jake, there's a question from Barbara Davis.
Yeah, you can unmute yourself and chime in. That's totally okay.
Thanks. I thought that was something you guys did.
No, you're good.
Okay, so the first thing you showed us with adding a video was like or audio. It was a specific slide, and kids would be watching the PowerPoint at home on their own speed or timing, whatever, and they get there and they can click and hear the audio. But then you showed us, like, if you record the whole presentation and you're talking, then it kind of records it according to the timing you do. So if the kids watch that, it's more like a movie of the slides and everything that you say. So they can hit pause, but it's not like they're clicking to the next slide, correct?
Yeah, so there's a couple options there, a couple other options there as well. So the first method I showed of importing audio to each individual slide, once you have put your audio on each slide, you could share that with students a couple ways. You could share with them the actual PowerPoint file, or you could export it out that way, or share, embed it on the web, any way that you would traditionally share a PowerPoint. And students could do exactly like you said. They go through on their own time, click through the slides. They can click play on the audio as well. But even if you recorded your audio, you recorded your narration separately on each slide, you still have the ability to use those narrations for a whole video or like a movie. So once you've done that, if you export it as a video file, so like I showed, like instead of saving it as a PowerPoint and sharing the PowerPoint, if you go to export and change your file type to MP4, then that's also going to create a movie or a video just like the second option would. So if you record the narrations for each slide separately, you can actually go either direction. It just depends on how you save it. You could either save it as a PowerPoint and share, and then students can click through and still hear your narrations, but they're on their own time. Or you could export it as a video, and then they're watching a movie, or it'd be like watching a recorded webinar, which I'm sure we've all done 100 times this summer. So
okay. And I have one other question.
Yeah.
When Suzanne switched over to her screen and was showing us how she clicked the video camera in the bottom right, and then you did it and we could see your face in the bottom right of the slide. So if you record that way, depending on the camera, that if I had a separate camera plugged into my computer set up to show a demo, and I made sure that was the default camera for recording, and if I did that quick demo, would that then be embedded on that particular slide when they got to it?
Absolutely.
Yes. Now, I would say it will be embedded, but it will be embedded in that tiny little video in the bottom of the screen. So if you're doing that for the purpose of some kind of demonstration, like for you're demoing some manipulatives or something in science, or whatever that may be, that if that's the purpose of the content, I would record that video separately and then embed that video into the slide, and not do it that way through the slides. It will work, but it will just be that tiny little video at the bottom. And if that's the core of your content, you probably want it bigger.
Right. So the purpose of the little picture down there is just that the kids can see the slide, but they can see you as a teacher talking to them.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you the little like talking head kind of feel.
Great band. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and log out here, but don't feel like that means you can't ask any more questions. Send an email, send a text, and answers don't have to be given just through there. If I need to hop back into a Google Meet just one-on-one with somebody tomorrow, that's totally okay as well. So any other questions you have, or if you think of something a month from now you're developing and you run into a problem, reach back out. We will still be here in a month, and we will still be willing to help in a year, in 10 years, however long. We'll be here to help. So thank you all again. Tech Tuesdays are the highlight of my weeks right now. They're great. I love getting to see people and interact. So thank you all for being here, and we'll see y'all next Tuesday.